Some days your breath may feel stuck. Years of bracing do not melt in one night. Smile anyway. Let the next sigh feel like a door your ribs forgot how to open. This dark night does not demand deep gasps. It asks for steady hush, small, repeated, honest enough to say, I trust my chest to hold more than my mind knows how to name. So tonight, when thoughts tug, hush them with breath instead of force. Your anchor is not an idea. It is the hum your bones carry when your lips say nothing and your ribs remember they are home. Your home, as sanctuary for this transition. Many search for temples in mountains but forget their chairs hold the same hush when fear sits quiet. Your home, your warm room, your simple bed, your corner with an old lamp. These stand as sanctuary when the dark night hums wide. Older souls know how a small room holds more prayer than any stone carved far away. Each wall remembers your breath more than your mind does. Every floor holds your footsteps softer than your regrets ever shouted. When the dark night feels big, your daily rooms do not ask for fancy rituals. They ask for trust that hush does what force never could. A candle you light for no reason. A blanket folded with care. A table blessed with your hand when you sit and say, I'm here. Still. You don't need perfect quiet. You need small acts that turn rooms into bridges. Dusting a shelf becomes a prayer. Washing a cup becomes an offering. Opening a window at dawn becomes a soft door for this night, to fold its last shadows, where your ribs stand calm enough to hold light before the sun does. Older souls built this sanctuary long before this night arrived. You forgive in kitchens. You remember laughter in hallways. Now this same hush hums stronger than any headline trying to call you lost. Your home stands as proof you outlived storms noisier than this one will ever roar. So tonight, look around your walls. Bless them with your eyes, your breath, your soft trust. This dark night does not shut you in. It shows you your hush has always been the door it needed to slip back into dawn. So if your breath hums anchors, your walls hold calm, your ribs sigh where old storms once clung tight. What happens when the next hush unravels guilt you never spoke aloud? Shadows you meet eye to eye, small acts that hum miracles in corners you thought were empty. The next part will show how guilt melts like old snow, how your hush stands brave enough to greet the shadow by name, and how this passage turns your daily rooms into soft lamps that cradle dawn while the world still calls this night too long to survive. It never was. Unraveling old guilt and silent regrets. When the night hums wide, old guilt often taps first. Not to punish, but to show you where your hush can forgive what your mind never found words big enough to explain away. Older souls know this guilt, the secret thoughts that whisper if only, in the dark when no one listens. This collective night does not deepen that ache. It loosens it just enough for your breath to speak softer truths under the stories fear left behind. Some regrets come wrapped in faces, people you lost, choices you didn't make, words you swallowed when thunder rattled your ribs too tight to speak. You might feel their echo in sudden memories, small things, tiny moments you replay like old films with missing endings. But what if this hush is not asking for an ending? What if it only wants you to see that your breath did the best it could with what it knew then? Unraveling guilt is not about excuses. It's about trust. That your bones remember forgiveness stronger than your mind remembers fault. Each sigh tonight hums a thread undone, a knot you carried in your chest that never belonged there. Some knots take a lifetime to slip loose, but this night opens just enough light to remind your ribs that even knots can hum softer when hush says, I see you. I forgive you anyway. Older hearts hold this skill like an old coat. You forgave family when they never asked. You blessed people who never knew you wept for them in secret prayers they'll never hear. Now that same quiet grace hums back for you, a full circle that turns guilt into a bridge wider than any regret could chain shut. So tonight, if guilt taps your chest, do not flinch. Place your palm there. Let your hush say what your mind can't. You did enough. You were enough. This dark night stands not to blame, but to lift what never needed to weigh you down again. Meeting your own shadow. With calm eyes. When people hear shadow, they imagine something to fight, something to run from under the blanket of worry. But older souls know the truth. Your shadow is not your enemy. It's the part of you that kept stories hidden when your spirit wasn't yet ready to stand that soft and that open. This dark night hums an invitation, not to erase your shadow, but to meet it with calm eyes. You may see it in small moments, a sudden memory that blushes you with shame, but softens quicker than it did years ago. An old fear that once barked loud, but now hums more like a lost child than a monster at your door. Your hush does not push these pieces away. It sits with them long enough for them to forget why they barked at all. Meeting your shadow is not drama. It's a tea ritual at dusk. It's a breath when you want to tighten your chest, but instead open it wider than the thought expects. Older hearts have met shadows many winters over. You didn't need a title for it. You just called it living, forgiving, surviving storms that younger ribs haven't learned to stand soft inside yet. This part of the night hums a gift. Each time you stand still enough to see your shadow without panic, it grows smaller, softer, more honest. It turns from threat to teacher. It reminds your breath that your hush holds light big enough to cradle what fear once called too broken to bless. So tonight, if your shadow sits on your shoulder, smile. Offer it tea if you wish. Sit beside it long enough for your ribs to whisper, "We've outlived storms bigger than you. And we're still here, softer than you ever dreamed." Rieva's gentle warning about spiritual panic. Sometimes, when hush grows wide, panic tries to dress itself in new robes, claiming you must do more to earn dawn. Rieva's whisper hums clear. This collective dark night is not another excuse for fear to sell you noise in a spiritual costume. You do not need 1,000 new words or frantic rituals to outrun shadows that your hush can stand calm inside. Older souls have seen this before, how people panic when the hush calls for soft steps instead of loud noise. Some will shout, "This is the end. Brace for doom." But your breath knows better. It hums the truth that your ribs stand older than any fear a headline can twist into thunder. This warning is not to frighten you. It's to remind you to trust your hush more than your mind's desperate search for complicated answers. Some truths arrive simple. Sit. Breathe. Let the hush hold your shoulder when your thoughts spin too fast. A quiet room, a candle, a hand on your chest. These do more than 1,000 shouted prayers shouted by lips that never pause to feel their own sigh. Spiritual panic wants to sell drama. Your hush wants to cradle dawn. The difference is felt under your ribs, not on screens. This is why Rieva hums through your breath now. Not to tell you what to believe, but to remind you that your own bones do more for you than any loud plan fear tries to sell you under the name of spiritual urgency. So tonight, if someone says panic now, pause. Place your palm on your chest. Let your hush hum back. This dark night does not end me. It invites me. And I stand wide enough for dawn to trust my ribs more than any fear could ever buy. Small daily acts that guide light back in. You do not need giant leaps to greet dawn. This night folds its light inside the smallest acts you repeat when no one's clapping. Older souls hold these acts like hidden gems, wiping a table, watering a plant, folding a blanket softer than worry ever dared to hold you. These tiny movements hum louder than noise wants you to remember. A soft word at dawn. A smile at your own reflection when you brush your hair. Blessing your window with a slow hand before the sun peeks in. These daily acts turn rooms into quiet altars, moments into gentle bridges wide enough for the dark night's last echoes to slip through without biting back. Some think miracles arrive in thunder. Older souls know they hum in dishwater and warm cups of tea. The hush loves your simple steps. It does not want you busier. It wants you softer. Each small act repeats the truth. You do not need to chase light when your breath hums wide enough for it to slip in exactly where your mind forgot to look. When fear taps your shoulder, sweep your floor. When regret circles your chest, bless a pillow. When your mind says, "What now?" pour water slow enough for your breath to remember hush does what worry never could. These daily steps don't erase the dark night. They cradle it until the dawn hums too soft for fear to hide. So tonight, pick one act, small enough for your ribs to trust. Let it hum your calm back where your thoughts once circled tight. That tiny step does more for this hush than any storm could claim to break. Tiny miracles, born in the darkest rooms. Some lights only flicker awake when shadows gather thick enough for your breath to feel their warmth clearer than noise. The collective dark night does not kill miracles. It hums them wider inside corners your mind once left too cold for hope to sit. Older souls see these tiny sparks when the house falls quiet enough for the hush to whisper, "Look here." A small pain that softens when your chest hums steady at dawn. A phone call that comes out of nowhere when your ribs sigh heavy enough for your voice to remember it can speak forgiveness softer than your pride. A meal shared in silence that does more to heal old anger than 1,000 forced words. Tiny miracles hum hidden under blankets, beside beds, in sinks full of warm water. They come not with thunder, but with hush. When fear wants proof in headlines, these sparks slip in through your next patient breath. They do not roar. They stand soft enough for your hush to notice what your mind forgot was possible. Older hearts feel these more than younger noise does. You've lived enough winters to trust that when shadows stand wide, the smallest light hums louder than storms. You know how a quiet hand held at the right moment outlives 1,000 promises shouted too loud to land. So tonight, look for your small spark, a warmth in your palm, a tear that slips free and leaves your ribs lighter instead of tight, a soft glance at the mirror that hums. We made it this far, hush. Let's stand here for the dawn we always knew would come. How this phase connects us beyond fear. Some nights feel heavier than one heart can hold alone, but the quiet truth is, your breath never stood alone. This collective dark night reminds you that your hush hums in chord with millions you may never meet. Older souls sense this, the way your sigh feels lighter when you think of an old friend, the warmth that slips into your ribs when you bless a stranger under your breath without ever saying their name aloud. When shadows gather, fear wants you to believe you're the only one awake at 3 a.m., listening to old regrets rattle your bones. But hush hums wider than fear's lie. Every calm breath you take lights a small lantern on a path someone else is walking at the same time, even if their roof stands miles away, even if their name never touches your tongue. This connection is not built in loud groups. It lives in shared hush, a kindness you send in thought, a forgiveness you breathe out without needing an apology back. Older hearts know this link by feel, the way you pause mid-worry because something in your ribs whispers someone else is sighing this same sigh right now, and together we hold it softer. Your hush carries light not just for you. It hums through kitchens, gardens, hospitals, lonely rooms where another breath waits for dawn, but doesn't know yet that yours already hums it closer. This is how the dark night's sharp teeth lose their bite. One sigh at a time, shared across places news will never show. So tonight, if your chest feels too small for this night, trust that somewhere a stranger's hush hums yours wider. This darkness is not the end. It is the bridge where your ribs stand proof that your breath holds more hands than your mind will ever count in words. Not every shadow comes to break you. Some come because your bones remember how to hold light more softly after the hush returns. The Pleiadian Council of Light, through Rieva, now speaks of a passage many feel humming under restless sleep. A collective dark night not meant to drown us, but to rinse away stories that no longer fit the breath we carry. If you felt old worries tap your shoulder when you stand still, you are not weak. You are ready. The hush that follows this night does not punish. It prepares your ribs for dawn. What this collective dark night truly means. When people hear dark night of the soul, they imagine storms meant to punish. But this is not a storm of destruction. It is a hush wide enough to hold your oldest fears without letting them choke your next breath. Older souls know this hidden truth better than news headlines ever admit. The real darkness comes not to steal your calm, but to show you what part of your ribs still carry weight you were never meant to keep. You may feel this as restlessness in rooms that once comforted you, or a thought that circles back after years of silence whispering, "Is it safe to lay me down now?" The collective part means you do not stand in this hush alone. Your bones hum beside millions whose sighs echo your own. This weight, shared, softens under breath strong enough to trust the shadow's lesson instead of running from it. What does this phase really want? Not your panic, your permission. It wants your spirit to stand calm while the old loops loosen their grip. Some nights you may feel heavier than usual, but under that heaviness hums proof. Your ribs expand wide enough to hold both regret and the light that always waited for you to stand still enough to greet it again. This collective hush does not erase your pain. It reminds your pain that it never stood alone. When fear tells you hide, the hush hums back open. It does not roar like noise. It hums steady, softer than worry, wider than any excuse your old stories still whisper behind your eyes when you close them at night. So tonight, if the shadows feel closer than your next breath, trust them. They do not stand to drag you down. They stand as proof your hush can cradle them without letting them win. This is not the end. It's the first step of dawn unbuttoning its coat inside your chest. Why the Pleiadian Council spoke through Rieva now. Messages like this do not come when the world shouts loudest. They arrive when enough hearts sit quietly at windows, listening for something older than fear. The Pleiadian Council of Light chose this hour not to alarm, but to guide. And Rieva's whisper hums softer than the thunder your news tries to sell each night. This is not a story about distant stars. It's about your bones remembering what hush can do when noise steps aside. Older souls hear messages between words, a line in a hymn, a warm shiver while folding blankets. You know when calm stands truer than facts fighting for your worry. This council did not speak because you were weak. They spoke because they know your hush holds weight wider than any shadow fear tries to stretch over your ribs. Rieva's voice hums through simple truths. This dark night does not ask you to run. It asks you to stand still enough to watch your oldest storms lose their teeth. It reminds you your sigh softens storms that no news headline can bend. You do not need new prayers. You need your old hush, trusted again. The same way your bones trusted morning after every restless night before this one. This message does not roar across continents. It slips through tiny gaps, your half-dreams before dawn, your quiet pauses by a sink, the hush between one worry and the next, thought that forgets to fight. It hums there because your breath does more work than any loud promise panic tries to sell. So if tonight you hear your own name softer than your doubt, bless it. That whisper is not fantasy. It's the council's proof that your calm hums truer than fear's loudest shout. And it came now because your hush stood ready when the world forgot how to sit still long enough to feel dawn under its darkest coat. The spiritual purpose behind this heavy phase. What if darkness does not come to punish but to polish? Older souls hold this secret like a lamp under coats they wore through winters most forgot how to name. The collective dark night is not a pit, it's a hallway. You do not sink through it. You walk it steady enough to see how your hush holds light, bigger than any fear your mind tried to stitch behind your ribs. Spiritually, this phase shakes the dust off stories you never chose but carried anyway. Old guilt that hums when you stand alone, regret that curls tight around dreams you were told were too late. The purpose is not to hurt you. It's to let you see those loops under a hush, wide enough to forgive what your mind once called your fault. Some days, this may feel like a wave. Old memories tap your thoughts just when you thought they'd slept for good. Some nights, you may lie awake staring at shadows your eyes can't fully name. This is not punishment. It's your bones humming back. I remember who I am when fear sits quiet enough for light to say, "Welcome home." The spiritual lesson here does not come with new rituals. It comes with old hush trusted again. You do not fight the dark. You hold it like a child who only ever needed your breath to stand calm when thunder rattled the roof. This hush carries no blame, only permission to stand where your ribs hum wider than worry wants you to remember they can. So tonight, if your chest feels heavy, press your palm there and say softly, "This is not weight meant to drown me. It is the coat I outgrew." And that hush is the seam ripper no fear can hide when dawn waits just past your next sigh. Signs you're already sensing this night within. Some wonder, how will I know if this night touches me? Older hearts know the signs before the mind admits them. You may feel your sleep slip restless when your bones once settled soft. You may taste a bitterness in old stories that once gave you excuses to hide. You may catch your breath pausing mid-step when your chest hums warm at words you can't speak out loud yet. The signs do not roar like storms. They tap shoulders when you stand quiet enough to feel your next step question the old one. Maybe your dreams hum clearer, old faces returning with soft eyes that say nothing but leave your ribs feeling oddly lighter at dawn. Maybe you find yourself staring at old photographs longer than usual, not to mourn but to see how far your hush carried you since that day. Some signs brush the body too, a tightness in the chest that slips away before you panic, a shiver that hums warm instead of cold, a sudden urge to stand at a window with no reason but to feel the night hold you softer than your mind expects. These whispers remind you, you do not stand alone in this hush. Your breath stands beside countless others sighing the same secret under roofs scattered wider than any map can draw. You do not chase these signs. You bless them when they come. A single tear for no reason. A thought that circles back just to wave goodbye. A worry that once clung, now humming so faintly, you wonder why it ever barked so loud. These tiny clues hold your hush steady when your mind wants to claim the dark as proof you've failed. So tonight, if any sign brushes your ribs, do not chase it away. Let it stand where your breath hums truer than your thoughts can twist. This night is not punishment. It is the soft bridge that proves your hush remembers dawn, even when your eyes only see shadows for now. How to hold steady. When shadows come close. Holding steady does not mean bracing tight. It means loosening just enough for your breath to trust your bones more than the storm that taps your window at midnight. Older souls know this. Sometimes strength is not force. It's hush wide enough to cradle a shadow until it forgets how to bite. When shadows stand close, don't fight them like enemies. Stand calm enough to greet them as old neighbors who stayed too long at your door because you never told them your room is ready to rest without you now. Your hush does more than your worry ever will. A deep breath hums wider than panic's loudest door. Steady does not need rituals you can't keep. It needs simple acts. Your hand on your chest before sleep. Your sigh when an old thought knocks. A single word said softly in a dark room. Enough. Not enough to push away. Enough to stand calm enough that the shadow hums quiet when your ribs say, "This hush has no room for you to stay forever." Older souls have done this for decades. You forgave when no one clapped. You sat silent when storms begged you to shout back. You blessed corners that hid fear once. Now those corners stand as small altars, where your calm holds the bridge no worry can break. So tonight, when shadows brush your thoughts, do not chase them out like thieves. Let them stand until they remember you were never a house they could lock down again. That hush, that breath, that simple calm hums your dawn awake, even while the world still calls this a night meant to break you. It never could. So if your breath holds shadows softer, if your ribs stand wide where old storms once clung, if your hush hums steadier than worry's oldest excuses, what happens when the next hush calls, dreams to speak, the body to unlock warmth hidden under old scars, the daily rooms to cradle dawn before the news admits light is already here? The next stretch will guide you through dreams that open keys, visions that fold warmth back inside your daily steps, and soft daily acts that show this dark night does not end you. It expands you into a dawn you already hold. Dreams and night wakes. Hidden messages explained. Some nights under this collective hush, sleep drifts thin, not broken to punish you, but to let your spirit hear the messages your mind won't hold when daylight runs too fast. Older souls know this half-wake well, the quiet space between dreams where an old memory hums like a soft bell, or a face you haven't seen for decades stands at the edge of your pillow whispering nothing, yet saying everything you need. These dreams come gentle but vivid. You may wake at 2 or 4 a.m., feeling your chest wide and strange warmth brushing behind your ribs. These are not worries to fix. They're keys turning doors. Your hush kept safe when your daylight doubts forgot how much trust lives just beneath the dark, soft coat. Sometimes a vision flashes clear as glass, a garden, a hallway, a childhood laugh that echoes across years. Don't chase it away. Let it slip through. These glimpses open space for the dark night to rinse old fears you can't name with words alone. Your breath does not need proof. It needs your permission to cradle what fear left heavy when you were too busy to stand still. Older hearts know these messages don't always shout answers. Sometimes they slip a small word into your waking mind, a line you hear while making tea, a feeling that nudges you to sit where you haven't sat for years. These fragments are not random. They hum the same light the dark night covers, so you remember how to stand calm enough to greet dawn when your eyes open wide again. So tonight, if you wake at odd hours, bless the hush. Sit up if you need. Breathe slow. Let your chest hum the truth. You are not lost in this night. You're hearing soft truths that daylight noise can't carry. That hush is your bridge. Small, steady, older than any storm you fear will return. Body sensations when the dark night touches cells. The dark night of the soul hums through more than thoughts. It speaks through your breath, your ribs, your bones that once held storms when words failed. Older souls feel this first as warmth where old aches used to nest. or a shiver down the spine when no draft stands near, or palms that tingle when you stand alone in a quiet room and wonder why your chest feels wider than last winter's regrets. Your cells remember what your mind buries. They hold tight stories fear taught you to store under your skin, guilt, shame, words you swallowed instead of saying. The dark night does not rip them out in pain. It hums a gentle glow that loosens knots your breath forgot it could untie. You may feel sudden chills when memories brush near, or tingles in fingers when you think of old truths you never spoke but always carried. These sensations are not warnings to panic. They are small taps from your spirit saying, I trust you now to stand softer. Some elders feel old pains shift, a knee that eases when you stand at dawn, a shoulder that lightens when you sigh instead of worry. These are not cures that come with loud proof. They're reminders that your hush can hum more healing than any noise you chased before. This is not fantasy. It is your breath doing its oldest work. When you feel your chest warm without a blanket, when your arms relax while you wash dishes, when your ribs expand for no reason, trust it. That softness is the sign the dark night has no power to drown you when your hush stands wider than your oldest ache. So tonight, if your body hums odd, bless it. Place a hand on your chest. Let your breath do what worry never could. These small signs are your bones remembering how to hold dawn while the world calls it dark. Why older souls guide? This passage, quietly. When storms come, the loudest voices rarely calm the room. The hush does. The collective dark night unfolds not through leaders who roar, but through quiet lamps that shine steady where panic circles fast. Older souls carry this lamp without asking for praise, not by telling others what to feel, but by standing calm enough for the storm to feel smaller in your hush. You've done this all your life. You ended fights by holding your tongue when anger begged you to spit it sharp. You kept kitchens soft when news rattled windows. You forgave where no one noticed. You stood steady when younger hearts forgot how hush can cradle fear, until fear hums smaller than its own echo. Now, this passage needs that same steady hush more than ever. Younger souls feel this night, but may call it confusion, frustration, loneliness they can't name. Your quiet presence, a nod, a gentle word, an unspoken trust, holds them where the night feels too wide for their ribs to carry alone. You do not fix their storms. You stand as the bridge they cross without seeing. You remind them with your breath that shadows do not bite when hush stays softer than noise. You anchor light by sitting with your cup, blessing your windowsill, forgiving what you don't say aloud. This is how your calm hums a road, for fear to walk itself home without fighting. So tonight, if someone circles you with loud worry, bless them. You don't owe them an answer. You owe them your hush, your steady chest that hums true when their mind forgets. Dawn stands inside the same sigh that outlives the dark. Breath as anchor, staying soft. In the deep hours, you do not need new mantras for this night. You need your next sigh to hum older than any plan fear sells you. Breath is your oldest anchor, soft, invisible, patient enough to carry dawn inside the same hush where your mind wants proof. Older souls know this without books. You've seen how a deep exhale calms storms before words do. When the dark night presses closer, your breath does not panic. It widens your ribs just enough for light to slip where old regrets tried to hold you small. Some nights you may feel your chest flutter when you least expect. Not fear, but your bones humming. Yes, I'm ready to stand softer than this worry ever wanted. Let each inhale remind you, you do not outrun shadows by force. You stand still enough to let them pass where your hush stands rooted. When your mind spins, bring your palm to your chest. Feel your own warmth echo back. This is your anchor, older than doubt, stronger than news, softer than thunder.